Hey guys, hey Dexerto. Now, as the video title probably suggests, I don't know what the title is going to be exactly at this point in time, but Dexerto, all the games journalists, all the journalists out there, the official ones that make articles online, you are welcome to copy my homework. Just embed the video that you used, send people to the channel here, and you are welcome to write an article that is much better than the one on screen here. And we have a Nathan Ellingsworth. My apologies, Nathan, but it seems like you don't know what you're talking about. And yes, I agree. If I didn't know what I was talking about, if I made an article about something that I didn't know what I was talking about, it would probably look a whole lot like this. We're being mean here a little bit, but at the same time, the source for information is not a very good one. Use me as a source. Wink. All right, let's see what we got here. We got Logan Paul's world record PSA 10 Pikachu card could be bogus, according to Pokemon TCG fans. Now, you'll notice that this came out July 30th, 2024. So this article is not only contains a lot of not true information. I mean, the bogus part, you got that, I guess, but people are kind of missing the point here. The receipts are not very good ones, and not to mention the fact that this happened 2 years ago. You could have made this article 2 years ago. It would have been a better article 2 years ago, but we can take a look at it now. Here we go. We got Logan holding up his Gem Mint 10 Illustrator. Oh my god, what a rare and expensive card. So I'm going to make some slight corrections here while we read through the article that is not very long. Again, it's probably just a click generating kind of nonsense article that it could have been good. Could have been good. You just reach out to me. I could have wrote it for you, essentially. You could have watched my video and it would have been a better one. Now, the Pokemon TCG community is calling out Logan Paul's famous Pikachu Illustrator card, graded a PSA 10 and bought by Paul for $5 million. So already we're starting off with incorrect information, but when you copy paste, that's going to happen. And not only it was over $5 million that was the claim, but also all of the journalism, all of the posts involved like to, I guess, not include the fact that we should probably question these numbers, even if it's a Guinness World Record, even if Guinness was paid to be there to write it down on a piece of paper. I don't trust the sale. Up to you, whether you do or not, but watch this video before you form that opinion. But again, it's going to be like one article comes out, Logan Paul sets record for a $5 million purchase. It wasn't just a purchase, it was a partial trade, and I also question whether or not the dollar value was there. Now, whether that was manipulated in any way by the amount that the 9 that was traded for the 10 plus supposedly cash, what part of that was maybe skewed a little bit in order to make the sale a bigger one. Again, it's weird that it's called a sale at all points in time here. It's weird that Guinness is referring it to as a private sale when it wasn't even a sale. It was a partial trade. So, largest partial trade in history, I guess, if they wanted to be accurate about it, but that's not a cool title. Paul became the owner of the record-breaking PSA 10 Pikachu Illustrator card in 2022, of which only 40 were ever made. Again, false information. There are more than 40. There supposedly were 40 made. There are extra copies. A lot of this high-end trophy stuff that everyone pumps to oblivion. Most oftentimes, the places that are selling it, the auction houses and stuff like that, they're not going to mention the extra copies. I don't know how many copies we're at now, but there are many extra copies. There are more than 40. If there were 40 made, maybe some were lost. Maybe some were destroyed. We've seen more than 40. How many extra copies are there? Who flippin' knows? But there are people that have access to this stuff that aren't very public about how many they have or what they have. But they keep coming out. There's more. There's more than 40. Is it still a very extremely super mega rare card compared to the majority of what's out there? Yes. But, I mean, you're going to have games journalists that are also going to be like, do you have one of these 40 Pikachu illustrators under your bed in a shoebox? If so, you could have a $5 million bonus. No, you don't have one of these. That's not, most of this trophy stuff, the very expensive Japanese trophy stuff, was given out in a way that you're not going to accidentally have one. It's not going to happen. Is in the realm of possibility that somehow someone was awarded a card and flew it over or gave it to you, or probably not. It is considered the most expensive Pokemon card in the world. While 40 exists, the one owned by Paul is the only one to receive the highest possible grading for its quality. And yes, we're going to get into that, the is it a real 10 kind of dilemma and debate. We're going to show why it wasn't, and why maybe it is at this point, and why maybe there will never be a correction on it. However, some Pokemon TCG fans are now questioning I was questioning this. I made a video highlighting exactly what happened here 2 years ago. However, time flies when you're having fun. However, some Pokemon TCG fans are now questioning the validity of the PSA grading and suggesting that it should instead be a 9 or lower, which would delegitimize Paul's claim that it is the rarest card in the world. True. I mean, if you send the other 9s in, at this point in time, you can't send the other 9s in because there's going to be a giant... I mean, it's more recognized now. Back when this got sent into PSA, I know it's going to blow people's mind, but they didn't care about Pokemon. From what I was told by previous owners and people that knew previous owners of the exact card, this thing was submit to PSA, and the grading fees were under $10. So you could crack it out, you crack out the 9, you could send the 9 back in, and it would cost you, I don't know, I can't remember what it was, like $7. It was less than $10. It was single-digit dollars to send this thing back in over and over again. And apparently, I mean, at that point in time, they definitely didn't. I don't think they do at this point. They didn't have a record of... I mean, it would be very easy to catalog this and know when it's being sent back in and just be like, hey, it's still a 9, guys. You can't do that. You can't. The hollow foil pattern on the Illustrator itself is a very key indicator of, hey, this is the same card that came into us. They were not paying attention to that. I still don't think they pay attention to that because we've seen many examples where people trim cards, where people alter cards, they come back in, they don't get identified. They need to have some sort of scan and database that shows like, hey, warning, 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 this is the same Illustrator that came in before. Again, it's not going to help back in time when they were putting this thing in plastic for $7. Allegedly. I don't know what the actual price was, but you get the point. Not good. Not a good look. And they can't fix it now. They're not going to be able to be like, oh, send this back in and we're going to make sure that it's not a 9. If PSA decides that they want to take this bad boy back, if Logan sends this in. Now, I don't know how they would, if that's a way to verify the fact that he's claiming it's a 10. You have some people that will do this. They don't like to pay out. PSA does not like to pay out on this stuff. So if you have something that's graded a 10, and it shouldn't be a 10, let's say it's got to be very obvious because they do not want to pay out on it. They have a guarantee that the grade is the actual grade of the card. So there exists a scenario where you could send this in. They would take a look at it and they'd be like, yeah, it's a 9. So we're going to pay you out on the difference based on what you paid for it. They're not going to do that. When you do it, I've seen examples with stuff that is much less expensive than this. It gets sent back to them. They're like, oh, yeah, the head grader says it's good. It's a good grade. It'll be a 10. It's got scratches all over it. Clearly not a 10. And they don't want to pay out the difference. They're just going to pretend that it's a 10. Even though it clearly isn't. Mistakes can be made. But with their guarantee, they kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit, where if stuff wasn't that expensive back then, but it's expensive now, they got to pay out on that price now. So it's same with altered cards, same with all of that stuff. They have to be very careful because the price that it is at the time of grading doesn't matter if it changes hands a few times, and the last sale was a very big one. Now, we're going to get into why I don't trust the $5 million partial trade whatsoever. I don't trust any prices that are coming from Logan. Again, form your own opinion. That's my opinion based on what I've seen in, you know, the much research that has been done in a few things that involve Logan directly. The discussion came up on Reddit in a post titled, Jake Paul's world record Pokemon card is not a 10. So your source doesn't even get the correct Paul brother. I get it. They might as well be one and the same. But please, come on, Dexerto. There are many sources out there that are better than the one that you're using. The post author calls out the card for having flaws too obvious to be considered a perfect 10, as well as the fact it's even been graded as a PSA 9 beforehand. So the PSA 9 beforehand part is correct. I was unable to find out exactly how many times it was regraded. That is something that PSA should have a record of, but does not probably have a record of, because if they couldn't tell that it was the same one sent in to give it the higher grade, chances are they were not recording how many times that got sent in. I'm sure they could go back and find, like, if it was the same person that kept sending it in, how many times that person sent it in. So they probably have a record of that, but then can they confirm that it was the same illustrator? Chances are this person that was sending it back in several times, they didn't have multiple illustrators that they were doing this with. But so here they're calling damage here. I don't know if this is damage or if this is just the holder itself that's kind of like blocking the card. I did hear information about the backside corners not being perfect, and that was probably the reason for the 9. But again, we don't get to see high def pictures. The cert has been deactivated as far as I know. I should probably open that up. Maybe I'll leave a pinned comment if it has not been, just in case. I shared some potentially wrong information there. But to my knowledge, the last time I checked, it was no longer on there. So it doesn't have a new cert number now at this point in time. Probably. Also important, we'll get into how this is a little bit of a liquid marketplace, maybe pump item. And what's going on with that. Again, we'll go through the actual details. Hang in there, Dexerto. You can rewrite the article if you'd like to, or make a new one, a new better one. Continuing, the author of the post argued that the card has been allegedly regraded as a PSA 10 before pointing out that the card has a chip in the corner. Second, the card has imperfect margins and is slightly cockeyed. They even share close-up pictures of the card. I mean, the margins they don't need to be perfect. Was it 60-40, the requirement on the front for it to be considered a 10? Again, there's like examples where it does or does not meet this. This is backed up by the original report on the purchase by PokeBeach, who claimed that the card has gone through multiple owners over the years and was graded a PSA 9 several times due to a small chip in the corner. However, it was regraded again and ultimately received a 10. Yes. So, and there's confusion about that we'll get into, but they didn't grade it for Logan. It was already graded beforehand. So the people that are kind of making that stuff up, or adding that, lending to that, I think the one that they're getting mixed up is the fact that he had a BGS 10 that he graded, and one of three, I believe. Gary has the other 2. So the sketchy part about BGS likely just giving it a 10 because it's Logan, is the fact that Gary sent them in prior to that exact card that he got changed over from a PSA 10 to a BGS 10. Gary sent it in at one point prior. They said, no, this is not going to get the BGS 10. And that's all was said and done. But then when Logan brought it to BGS, then he got it upgraded. But that was the Charizard, not to be confused with the Pikachu, the Pokemon Illustrator card here that we're talking about today. Talking on the grading, one comment asked, he has to know about this surely, unless he's clueless and didn't get a professional to take an in-depth look. However, other comments say they are sure Paul is aware, but he doesn't care. It is graded as a 10. So he didn't really respond to me. I sent him DMs. Sometimes he answers, or he was answering towards the beginning of like the liquid marketplace stuff when I was warning him that it was a scam. And he kind of didn't want to hear that. He sent me some copy paste stuff. But I also sent him, and there was no real comments. These are messages that he had read, that were marked read, that were before he stopped responding to me whatsoever. Told me that I was too much like a reporter or something like that. I guess I'm making content here. If I have questions for you, you'd think that the person that you're going to pretend saved you $3.5 million, you think you would probably listen to them and answer some simple questions without getting flustered or upset about it. But regardless, we have the Illustrator here. It's in a case. It's got to be in a fancy case, and it's got to be in Dubai if you're going to pretend to spend $5 million on it. Again, I don't know if the intention was to make it seem like it was a $5 million purchase, $5.275 million purchase. But again, it was a trade. Why is everyone calling it a purchase? Partial purchase. Partial trade. Meanwhile, other comments called out the PSA grading system more than Paul, with one comment adding, isn't PSA supposed to be the professional that takes a look? I feel like this says more about PSA than Paul. I mean, 100%. You shouldn't trust a grading company. You should buy the card, not the grade. I don't care if it's PSA, who is clearly leading the market at the moment, clearly going to add the most value to something if it gets a 10. That's kind of how it is. Other than like the niche stuff where stuff is like a black label or whatever. Typically, the PSA 10 is going to be the premium, and it's like an obtainable grade. Not always consistent. Remember, we got people that are being paid very little money, and it's not their fault. Hopefully they move on, they do better, they move up in the company, or they move on to something else where they can make more money than that, and don't have to put cards in plastic all day. But take that into consideration here. You're not getting the cream of the crop. And yes, you, the person that is watching this video, can be more of an expert in whatever area it is that you want to focus on, that you want to collect in just a couple of years of doing a lot of research, looking into a lot of stuff. If you're truly interested in it, you're going to be to the point very quickly that you would not take a job at PSA or any of the other grading companies putting cards in plastic. Guaranteed. Promise. Pinky promise. You have my word. Some claim that PSA regraded it to a 10 because it would be great free advertising. Not the case. Again, they graded it for somebody else, not for Logan, and this was back when they didn't give a shit about Pokemon. They clearly didn't care if they were only charging single-digit dollars in order to grade this thing, and suggest that the company gifted him the regraded 10 in exchange for his public showboating of the card. No, that was the Charizard that you can. If there's any accusation or any suspicious activity, it was BGS upgrading a card that they wouldn't for Gary, but they did for Logan so that he could show it off. Again, that would be advertising for BGS. 100% agree. Dexerto reached out to PSA for comment, but at the time of writing, they have not replied. We will update this article if they add any further information. Well, here you go. Here's all your information that you need to update the article. I think you should just start from scratch because this is kind of embarrassing. Again, not to hate. This is like the same thing if I had a job where I had to write an article and it was about like Hello Kitty or something, and I have just no idea and I don't have that much time to spend on it. This is kind of what would happen. So again, we have the Jake Paul world record Pokemon card is not, again, your source, it doesn't even know if it's Jake or Logan. You have people who are like in the comments here typically don't know what they're talking about. I don't understand. I would never want to talk about something. I would never want to write an article about something where I know nothing about it. And if I had to for some reason, I would be pushing as hard as possible to make sure that I have somebody that does know what they're talking about in order to do it justice. Now here's the video in question. It is called History of the PSA 10 Pikachu Illustrator Logan Paul was wearing at a WWE 2 years ago. 30,000 people saw this. Apparently, Dexerto did not. There's the Guinness World Record, which is weird. That I purchased for $5.275 million. Again, private sale. No mention of the partial trade. You have to really dig deep for that, apparently. I don't know how that's allowed. I mean, there's been many who criticize Guinness for other records and other stuff and claiming that they're just, you throw a paycheck at them, you throw a big number at them and they'll give you a plaque. That's what I've heard. Again, that's to each their own, to form their own opinion on it. I think it's kind of grimy. I think it's kind of sketchy to be calling it a sale when it wasn't actually a sale. Yes, there was money involved, but you would think it would have to have those specifics in the title, in the award, in the posts. But again, extremely misleading, along with, I guess, the same with like Logan's video about the fake case, about how he's out $3.5 million. Not only was that fake because he had not paid for it yet, and that Shine was going to reimburse him, or claimed he was going to reimburse him. But then also, the video that I have highlighted here, we have Shine on the call with me, who claims that Logan had no intention of ever buying the case, that the $3.5 million was essentially a faked sale, which is extra sketchy if that's the case. Again, this is the person that supposedly sold it to Logan, who Logan was claiming sold it to him. Sale never happened. But not only did the sale never happen yet, didn't happen yet because, not just because I interrupted it with, hey guys, you might want to take a look into this case. It doesn't look very real. And I talked to both of them. Both of them on the phone, both of them through messages. And then Shine tells me at some point that the 3.5 was never coming to him, that he got bamboozled, and that Logan instead wanted to put this case on the liquid marketplace, which is weird because that seems like a sketchy thing to do if you're faking a $3.5 million sale. Now, whether or not they were both new and both were in on that, or both were okay with that, clearly a no-no to be faking a giant dollar value on something that is going to be fractionalized and sold off. That's at bare minimum unethical, and it might be a whole lot more than that. You guys let me know down below what you think of that. Liquid Marketplace, as we've seen, as we've been tuning into, is now under investigation for fraud, and not a surprise. So this Illustrator card was essentially a replacement item, as far as I can tell, in my opinion, allegedly, etc., was a replacement for the fake case. The fake case was supposed to go on Liquid Marketplace. Whoop-de-doo, it didn't. I absolutely, it eats me from the inside when I hear people just parroting like, oh, remember when Logan Paul got scammed? He didn't get scammed. He never paid for the case, according to everyone that was involved. According to Shine, the person that supposedly sold it to him. But not only that, it seems, in my opinion, it looks like they were all involved with it. That it was kind of just a staged item that was going to be sold off in fractional shares on this platform, put in a vault where no one could ever open it. No one could ever find out that the G.I. Joe cards were inside. Again, they have complete control over that because Liquid Marketplace was able to change the amount that was retained by the original owner, the amount of fractional shares, to the point that if they wanted to, they could have it never sell. So if they were scheming and scamming, according to the OSC, on one thing, why wouldn't they be doing it on others? And is it going to be another? Again, I asked Ryan. I was like, Ryan, what's going on with this? Is this going to be another Dink Doink or Crypto Zoo? And he got upset and he wanted to hang up the call. That Ryan Buyee, the one of the co-founders, along with Logan Paul, who was labeled a co-founder for Liquid Marketplace. Whoop-de-doo. So we see a lot of the Illustrator. We don't see a lot of the back of it. I do have old pictures, which are not very good quality pictures, which it's hard to tell exactly how much damage is on it. Specifically on the surface, like, it'd be very hard to tell. But we have Logan here blinging it out, showing it off, putting it on Liquid Marketplace to get interest, to get people to buy in to the platform itself. And look what the platform did to everyone. Whoop-de-doo. Who would have thought? Scammerini. Now, I did warn Logan. I warned him. I was like, hey, Liquid Marketplace looks like a scam. You might want to look into it. And he did nothing about it. Again, this is the person that provided him free information, and he wants to claim that I saved him $3.5 million. But at the same time, he's nothing. Crickets when it comes to, hey, this thing that you're doing is looking like another scam. You might want to look into it. You might want to be careful. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Again, no charge, free advice, free information, but maybe you didn't want that free information. All right, so here it is. This is the very same Illustrator. This is what it looked like when it was in a 9 case. Again, according to the people that owned it, according to the people that were around, this is kind of a known thing. And again, Logan would have known this was a thing had he sought out the advice, and he could have received this advice for free. I didn't pay anyone to get this advice. Had he asked around, this is kind of a known thing, especially in the high-end collectors. They should all know that this is a thing, that this 10, the Illustrator 10, was not a 10 multiple times before it became a 10. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows the story. Not everyone in Pokemon, but everyone in the high-end market. Everyone that's advising people in the high-end market and everyone in the high-end market knows that this thing, he could have easily asked somebody and found this out. Did he know beforehand? Probably. Did he seem surprised when I showed him pictures of the same card in a pizza box? No, he didn't really respond to that. I don't know if he was upset about it. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know if he already knew and he didn't give a shit. Maybe he hasn't seen that this bad boy was a gamer at one point in time. That was back when it was a 9, though. It was only playing Xbox Live, probably telling people that it was gonna sleep with their mom. All that fun stuff that happened on that platform. And then we have the pizza box, the famous pizza box photo, where we have Logan Paul's prior. I guess this was a 9. It's now a 10. Don't worry about this, little guy. Again, we got the little pepper. We got the garlic sauce that seems unused, and we got a slice of cheese pizza. Man, pizza. Anyone that gets pizza with a pepperoni, I don't know what you're doing. You're missing out. Here we have it with a vacuum, and I don't know why they took these pictures. It was just like a funny thing. They're like, hey, look, I got an Illustrator. Let's take some funny photos with it. But here it is. Here's a photo of it. You can kind of see that, yeah, the centering is not great, and then imperfections, very hard to tell. There were people that were telling me that there was problems with the back corner, but it's hard to tell in this image. It's not great. I can I'll put on the end screen the clickable to this video here if you want to watch through that. Again, €2 video, so excuse my cringe a little bit. We're working on it. We're getting better at talking to the camera, I think, probably. Then we got it with muscle milk. We got it with on a gamer chair. This has got to be the grossest gamer chair I've ever seen. And mostly just the material. I can only imagine how much like gamer sweat would go into this and how gross it would be. Like, it's just like, why? Dude, don't make gamer chairs out of that. Yuck. Then we have the old E4. Again, you could have just, Logan could have made a post on E4 and could have asked about the 10 Illustrator, and people would have said, hey, yeah, it was a 9 a bunch of times, and they probably would have shown them these pictures. So here it is as a 9 once again, and here it is as a 10 with the same cert number as the one that Logan had. Whoop-de-doo. Same card, different label. Again, it's one of the old PSA labels. It's back when PSA didn't care about Pokemon. They do now because it's making them a ton of money. I think it's outpacing any individual sport at this point in time. So now, yes, now they're going to pay attention. Now they're going to be fans of the old Pokemon series. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully this was helpful not only to the game journalists, but to everyone that's watching or anyone that happened to read that article and was like, what the hell is going on here? This doesn't seem real. Here's real information for you. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining the Discord. Thanks for using the link tree, shopping at Troll and Toad with code Rattle5. And for shopping at Card Market, no code required. Don't even need to click on anything, but there are lots of links on the link tree that you can click on before you shop for the things you're going to buy anyway to support the channel. Love you guys. See ya.